Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror, and for a brief second, you see a version of yourself that is actually winning. You see the person who finished that project. You see the person who finally started that business or mastered that skill. You can feel the energy and the pride radiating off that reflection. It feels so real that you can almost taste the success. You know deep down in your core that you are capable of greatness. You have the ideas, you have the vision, you have the fire. But then the sun actually comes up. You wake up in the real world and suddenly that fire feels like a pile of cold ash. You look at your to-do list and you feel an inexplicable weight in your chest. Instead of taking the first step, you pick up your phone. You tell yourself you just need 5 minutes to wake up. Those 5 minutes turn into 30. Those 30 minutes turn into 2 hours of mindless scrolling. You are watching other people live the dreams you have for yourself. By noon, the guilt starts to crawl up your throat. By 5 in the afternoon, that guilt has transformed into a heavy, suffocating shame. You spend the rest of the evening paralyzed because the weight of what you did not do is now too heavy to lift. And then, at night, you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, asking yourself the same agonizing question that has haunted you for years. Why am I like this? Why am I so lazy when I want so much more? If you have ever felt this paralyzing gap between your potential and your daily reality, I have a truth for you that is going to change everything. You are not lazy. In fact, laziness, as you define it, is a myth. What you are actually experiencing is a high-speed collision between your grand ambitions and a primitive part of your brain that is terrified of your success. Most people will tell you that you just need more motivation or a better morning routine. They tell you to just do it as if it were that simple. But that is like trying to pour more gasoline into a supercar while the handbrake is pulled all the way to the ceiling. You are not running out of fuel. You are fighting a biological system designed to keep you safe, even if that safety feels like a prison. Right now, 90% of ambitious people are trapped in this exact same cycle of dreaming big and doing nothing. They are the brilliant procrastinators and the ambitious slackers. Today, I am going to pull back the curtain on the psychological glitch that is holding your life hostage. I am going to show you why your brain treats your biggest goals like a predator in the woods and how it uses dopamine to keep you stuck in place. By the end of this, you will finally understand the neurological handbrake that has been stopping you from moving forward. We are going to stop guessing and start analyzing the mechanics of your own mind. You will not just leave with a new perspective, you will leave with a psychological roadmap to stop being the person who dreams and start being the person who executes. But before we can fix the system, we have to understand exactly how it broke. Let us go inside your brain and look at the war being waged between who you are and who you want to be. It is time to turn the lights on. To understand why your brain is sabotaging your greatness, we have to look at the internal architecture of your mind as if it were a crime scene. There is a conflict happening right now between two very different parts of your biology, and they do not speak the same language. On one side, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the newest part of the human brain. It is the CEO. It is the visionary. This is the part of you that looks at a blank canvas and sees a masterpiece. It is the part that watches a successful entrepreneur and says, I can do that too. It thinks in terms of years and decades. It understands the value of sacrifice and the beauty of achievement. This CEO is currently sitting in your boardroom with a detailed 10-year plan and a burning desire to change the world. But sitting across the table is the amygdala. This is your ancient reptilian brain. It is millions of years old and it has only one job: keep you alive. The amygdala does not care about your dreams. It does not care about your bank account or your legacy or how many followers you have. It only cares about safety. To your amygdala, safety is defined by one thing: sameness. If you are alive today doing what you did yesterday, then yesterday was safe. Therefore, today should look exactly like yesterday. When your prefrontal cortex stands up and announces a grand new plan to start a business or write a book, your amygdala hears something completely different. It does not hear success. It hears threat, it hears uncertainty, it hears the possibility of social rejection, which back in the day meant literal death. So your amygdala pulls the handbrake. It floods your system with cortisol. It creates that heavy feeling of resistance that you call laziness, but which is actually a high-tech security system preventing you from stepping into the unknown. But here is where it gets truly interesting and a bit dark. Your brain has figured out a way to keep you happy while you are failing. It uses a chemical called dopamine. Now, you probably think dopamine is the chemical of pleasure, but that is not quite right. Dopamine is the chemical of anticipation. It is the craving for the reward. When you sit down to work on your big goal, the amygdala screams threat and the prefrontal cortex feels the pressure. The tension is uncomfortable. To resolve this tension, your brain looks for an immediate escape route. It points you toward your phone. It points you toward that bag of chips or that mindless video game. Why? Because when you think about clicking that app, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. It promises a reward without any of the risk. Your brain realizes that if you just keep scrolling, you get to stay safe in your bed and still feel a sense of stimulation. This is not just a habit. This is a survival strategy. Your brain is literally rewarding you for hiding from your own potential. But wait, because there is another layer to this mystery that we need to examine. I call it the identity protection program. Most ambitious people are actually terrified of their own talent. You see, as long as you are lazy, you can still tell yourself the lie that you are a genius who just has not tried yet. You get to keep the fantasy of being special intact. If you actually tried with 100% of your effort and you still failed, then you would have to face the truth that maybe you are just ordinary. That thought is so painful to the ego that your brain would rather you stay in bed and feel guilty than get up and risk being average. This is why you wait for the perfect moment. You tell yourself that you are waiting for the right equipment or the right timing or the right amount of energy. But perfectionism is not a high standard. Perfectionism is a suit of armor that you wear because you are afraid of being seen. It is fear disguised as excellence. If you never start, you can never be judged. If you never finish, you can never fail. You are protecting your ego at the expense of your life. Let us look at the 3 types of people trapped in this loop. The first is the visionary dreamer. This person spends all their energy on the high of the idea. They talk about their plans. They buy the notebooks and the planners. They feel like they have already achieved the goal just by thinking about it. Their brain gets a massive hit of dopamine from the fantasy alone. So by the time they actually have to sit down and do the work, they are already exhausted. They have already spent the mental reward. The second is the defensive procrastinator. This person is busy all day, but they are doing the wrong things. They will clean their entire house or organize their emails for 4 hours just to avoid the one difficult task that actually matters. They use productivity as a shield to hide from the work that scares them. They are running a race on a treadmill. They are moving fast, but they are going nowhere. The third type is the one we are all striving to become, but it requires a fundamental rewiring of how you view discomfort. But before we get to the solution, I want you to look at your own life through this lens. Think about the last time you felt that surge of motivation at midnight. You felt like you could conquer the world. Why then? Because at midnight, there is no risk of actually having to do the work. It is safe to dream. But when the sun comes up, the risk becomes real and the amygdala wakes up. I used to be the king of the midnight motivation. I would plan entire companies while lying in bed and then feel like a total failure by 10 in the morning. I realized that I was addicted to the feeling of being ambitious, but I was terrified of the reality of being an amateur. You have to understand that the beginning of every great thing is inherently embarrassing. You are going to be bad at it. You are going to look foolish. Your brain knows this, and it is trying to save you from that embarrassment. But that embarrassment is the tax you must pay to enter the room of greatness. If you are not willing to be a fool, you will never be a master. Your ambition is the engine, but your fear is the friction. Most people try to fix this by searching for more inspiration. They watch more videos like this one thinking that the right words will finally give them the power to move. But inspiration is like a sugar rush. It feels great for 5 minutes and then it leaves you crashing harder than before. You do not need more information. You are already over-informed and under-executed. What you need is a radical shift in how you relate to your own discomfort. You need to stop viewing that heavy feeling in your chest as a sign to stop and start viewing it as a sign that you are standing at the edge of your comfort zone. That feeling is not a red light, it is a green light. But your brain has been trained to treat it like a wall. We have to tear that wall down piece by piece. But the most dangerous part of this cycle is not the wasted time. It is the erosion of your self-trust. Every time you make a promise to yourself and break it, you are telling your subconscious that your word means nothing. You are training yourself to be a liar, and eventually you stop believing in your own dreams altogether. You start to think that this is just who you are. You identify as a lazy person, but laziness is a behavior, not an identity. You are a person who is currently using avoidance as a coping mechanism. That can be changed, but only if you are willing to face the monster under the bed. The monster is not the work. The monster is the fear of who you might be if you actually tried. But what if I told you that the version of you that succeeds is not a different person? It is just you without the handbrake. It is just you deciding that your vision is more important than your comfort. The question is not whether you are capable. We already know you are. The question is whether you are willing to be uncomfortable for long enough to prove it. Now we reach the final piece of the puzzle, and it is the one that will either set you free or keep you locked in this cage forever. I want you to completely reframe how you look at your so-called laziness. Up until this point, you have seen it as a defect or a character flaw. But what if I told you that your resistance is actually a sign of your immense power? You only have a handbrake this strong because you have an engine that is capable of terrifying speeds. Your brain is not trying to sabotage a mediocre life. It is trying to protect you from the massive impact of a great one. This is the paradox of the ambitious slacker. Your potential is so high that the stakes feel life or death to your primitive mind. So here is the secret of the third type of person, the one I call the architect. The architect does not wait for the resistance to go away. They do not wait for a burst of inspiration or a sign from the universe. They understand that the feeling of not wanting to do it is the exact moment when the real work begins. They have learned to treat discomfort as a metric for progress. If they feel resistance, they know they are moving in the right direction. They have mastered the art of the tiny start. They do not try to write a whole book, they write one sentence. They do not try to work for 8 hours, they commit to 15 minutes. They realize that the first 5 minutes of any task are the hardest because that is when the amygdala is screaming the loudest. Once you get past that initial wall of fire, the brain settles down and the prefrontal cortex takes control. This is how you rewire the system. You do not do it with a grand gesture, you do it with 1,000 tiny victories. Every time you sit down and work for just 10 minutes, despite feeling like you want to run away, you are physically changing the neural pathways in your brain. You are teaching your amygdala that you are not in danger. You are building the muscle of discipline. And let me be very clear with you. Discipline is not a personality trait. It is a choice that you make over and over again until it becomes a habit. You have spent years building the habit of avoidance. It is time to start building the habit of execution. But you must be careful because your brain will try to trick you one last time. It will tell you that you can start tomorrow. It will tell you that after you watch one more video or read one more book, you will finally be ready. That is a lie. You will never feel ready. Ready is a fantasy. There is only now and there is only action. If you leave this video and go back to your old patterns, you are making a conscious choice to let your potential rot. You are choosing the slow, agonizing death of regret over the temporary discomfort of effort. I want you to ask yourself a very serious question. If you continue living exactly like you are right now, where will you be in 5 years? Will you still be lying in bed feeling guilty? Will you still be watching other people live the life you dreamed of? The clock is ticking, and every day you spend in waiting is a day you will never get back. But there is hope. Because the moment you take even the smallest action, the power shifts. The shadow of the monster shrinks. You realize that the work was never as scary as the thought of the work. You are capable of so much more than you have allowed yourself to see. It is time to stop being a spectator in your own life. It is time to stop planning and start building.